Tasha sat on the edge of her bed, her heart pounding as she stared at the envelope in her hands. She had found it the day before, tucked away in the glove compartment of her dad's Fiancée's car. It wasn't hers to open, but the name on the letter had caught her attention. Cynthia Miller. That wasn't the name her dad's fiancée went by. Her name was Lisa, or so everyone thought. At first, Tasha had convinced herself it was just a coincidence. People have aliases for work or other harmless reasons, right? But something about Lisa's reaction when Tasha casually mentioned the envelope had set off alarm bells. Her nervous laugh, the way her hand instinctively shot toward the glove compartment before quickly retreating, it was enough to push Tasha into action. Against her better judgment, she had opened the letter when no one was looking. The contents made her stomach drop. Lisa, or Cynthia, was already married. The wedding was happening in less than 24 hours, and Tasha felt like she was carrying a bomb in her chest. She adored her father, a kind, hard-working man who had spent years piecing his life back together after Tasha's mom passed away. Lisa had seemed like a breath of fresh air, bringing laughter and love into their home. But now, everything felt like a lie. That night, Tasha barely slept. Her mind raced with questions and fears. What if she was wrong? What if Lisa had a reasonable explanation? But what if she didn't? By morning, the weight of the decision was suffocating. Tasha didn't want to ruin her father's big day, but she couldn't stay silent. As the ceremony began and the guests settled into their seats, Tasha stood near the back, wringing her hands. Her father beamed at the front, dressed in his best suit, his eyes full of love as he looked at Lisa. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, Tasha's heart felt like it would explode. She stood up. I need to say something, she stammered, her voice trembling. All eyes turned to her, a mix of confusion and concern. Tasha, her father said gently, his brows furrowing. What's going on? Tears welled in her eyes as she turned to Lisa. Tell him the truth, she demanded. Tell everyone who you really are. Lisa's face turned pale. Tasha, I don't know what you're talking about, she said, her voice wavering. Yes, you do. Tasha shot back, holding up the letter. Your name isn't Lisa, it's Cynthia, and you're already married. The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. Her father froze, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. Is this true? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lisa, or Cynthia, opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Finally, she nodded. It's not what it looks like, she said, her voice breaking. I was going to tell you, I swear. I didn't know how. Her father took a step back, his hands shaking. You didn't know how? You lied to me, to my daughter, to everyone here. Tasha's heart ached as she watched the pain wash over her father's face. She hadn't wanted to hurt him, but she knew staying silent would have been worse. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, Cynthia said, tears streaming down her face. I was in a terrible marriage. I ran away to start over. I didn't think I'd fall in love again. But then I met you, and everything changed. Her father shook his head. You could have told me the truth. We could have figured it out together. But now, I don't even know who you are. Cynthia fell to her knees, sobbing. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I love you. Please believe me. The room was silent, save for the sound of her crying. Tasha stepped closer to her father, placing a hand on his arm. Dad, I'm sorry, she said softly. I couldn't let you go through with this without knowing the truth. He looked at her, his eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and heartbreak. You did the right thing, Tasha, he said, his voice cracking. The wedding was called off. Guests quietly filed out, leaving the once joyful venue filled with an eerie stillness. Cynthia left without another word, her sobs echoing as she walked away. That evening, Tasha and her father sat on the porch in silence, the sunset casting a golden glow over their faces. I thought she was the one, he said finally, his voice heavy with sadness. I know, Dad, Tasha replied, but you deserve someone who's honest with you. He nodded, pulling her into a hug. Thank you for looking out for me, sweetheart, he said, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, they found solace in the unbreakable bond they shared, knowing they would face whatever came next together.